Alright, fellas, it's time to look at the Nancy Drew Season 1 finale, The Clue in the Captain's Painting. Nancy is in the Horseshoe Bay PD being interrogated about the murder of someone close to her. Elizabeth is gently trying to find out what happened to Owen, but Nancy is too shocked and grief-stricken to help. Bess is also at the station trying to manage her family. As Elizabeth heads out to see her, Elizabeth thinks if she was at the party, she could have prevented Owen's death. As she walks away, Bess is stuck with her family who wants to plan Owen's service. Nick and George are waiting on a bench outside, and her knee is shaky from anxiety. But when Nick lays his hand on her knee trying to calm her down, she pushes him away. Get back here. Nancy goes to her house with her friends. When they sit down to discuss what to do, the crew realizes that if the Iglesia came for Owen, she's definitely coming for them next. So they decide to contact Owen from the afterlife so he can tell them what happened after he received the latest portent, but before she killed him. It's the only chance they have of trying to stop the curse. So they set another seance, however Ryan arrives. Here to help to Owen and wants to check in with Nancy, but she really shuts down the father-daughter bonding session by telling him to go. In her anger, she also offs him for ruining the women around him, specifically naming Lucy and Tiffany. We gain that George also had a relationship with him too, and George takes offense at the idea that she is somehow ruined. Nancy tries to apologize when Ryan leaves. George brushes her off, not wanting to discuss her feelings now. Nick also tries to comfort her, but like before, she pushes him away. The group sits in a circle to begin the ritual. Right away, a wind whips through the house, destroying a table in the living room. They don't reach Owen, but they do reach the Iglesia, a terrifying golem-like creature who screeches at them and disappears. It seems she doesn't want them talking to Owen. After the unsuccessful seance, Bess, Nick, and George head to the Marvin mansion to see if there are any clues to dig up there while Nancy stays with Ace. They go to learn more about the Iglesia. On their arrival to the mansion, it becomes clear that Bess's family is eccentric. One asks George and Nick if either of them were artists because Owen will need a portrait for the Hall of Tragedies now that he's been murdered. George and Nick talk to the group, who all have a motive for killing Owen but also seem too self-absorbed to pull it off. Meanwhile, Bess talks to Aunt Diana, who can ask Bess to use her relationship with Elizabeth to benefit the family by finding out what the police know about Owen's killer. It's clear that Bess is conflicted about her relationships between her newfound family and girlfriend. Nancy and Ace are at the Historical Society talking to Hannah, who encourages that the Iglesia could be responsible. She says the spirit is unusually rare, hardly ever appearing in front of people. When Nancy admits that they successfully contacted her, Hannah is shocked, saying, "She's not your common street ghost, she's like a white whale." Ace helps her response with, "Well, she did have a tail." The jury realizes that whatever killed Owen was human. Nancy and Ace call the rest of the crew, will tell them they don't think the Marvins are responsible, with Bess backing up George and Nick's claim. Elizabeth arrives at the mansion to obtain DNA samples from the Marvins, and Bess step in and smooth things over between Elizabeth, Aunt Diana, and the more vocal of the Marvin cousins. She volunteers to go first, so the rest of the Marvins they have nothing to fear. Nick again tries to talk to George about the tension between them, but she isn't ready. Nancy and Ace go to Owen's apartment to look for clues. Nancy notices he has a ghost catcher, and this makes her even sadder. Ace is generally supportive throughout the scene, telling Nancy that he knows she doesn't like to share her feelings with everyone, but that he's there if she needs him. Nancy appreciates Ace not being pushy. As Ace tries to unlock a trunk in Owen's room, Nancy notices hampered on the window pane. Someone was here. Elizabeth and the rest of the police arrive. Nancy corners her to ask about the DNA testing of the Marvin mansion. She asks if they have a suspect, and Elizabeth tries to keep her out of the investigation. But Nancy says this investigation is holding her together right now, asking Elizabeth to let her help. Elizabeth seems on the fence, but then looks to Ace, realizing they actually could use the tech skills. Outside the Marvin's home, Ryan arrives to find George standing outside. She texted him, and he's confused as to why. George gains confidence in herself, as she tells him that because of him, she can't have a normal relationship. She tells him about how being the other woman at 17 has completely warped her idea of what love is, saying that she may have been young, but he should have known better. She calls him out for his behavior, saying, "You made me feel okay with being a dirty little secret because I was 17 years old." Ryan tries to half-heartedly defend himself, but George shuts it down immediately. Nancy, Ace, and Elizabeth are reviewing Owen's calls from the day of the murder. They come to a realization that the killer may have been targeting Nancy, not Owen. Elizabeth is called away, and she instructs Ace and Nancy to stay put. Nancy being Nancy, she immediately gets up. She has a hunch that Josh is back, as she and Ace head to the nursing home to see Patrice. When they arrive, Nancy goes in to talk to Patrice alone and has Ace stand guard outside. Patrice thinks Nancy is Lucy, and her interactions with her daughter are poignant and sad. Nancy decides to tell her grandmother who she really is. Lucy's daughter, therefore her granddaughter. Patrice, even her dementia, is happy about this revelation. She touches Nancy's face as she laments that she's missed Nancy's whole life. Nancy smiles and just says that she's only missed part of it. She asks where Josh went, and Patrice returns as she smiles and says he never left, while glancing at the ceiling, alerting Nancy that he's on the roof. Outside, Ace sees the lights flickering Morse code at the other end of the hall. He whispers SOS as he walks toward the source. But when he reaches the room, the door slams shut behind him. Nancy rushes to the roof to find Josh standing there waiting for her. He tells her that he didn't want to kill Owen, but he refused to lure Nancy to Josh, and so he had to kill him. Nancy tells Josh that she is his niece and that Lucy killed herself, which Josh doesn't want to believe. Just then, Ace arrives on the roof. He tells them the police are on their way as they hear the sirens, and Josh breaks down. He tries to jump off the roof, but Nancy and Ace manage to catch him. Back at the Claw, the group discuss what happened, and Nancy feeling conflicted about saving Josh's life. The group praises her for doing the right thing. The conversation turns to Iglesia, who is still out there and ready to collect her toll. Elizabeth lets Bess know she knows that Aunt Dana has been pressuring her, as Bess has been so warns her girlfriend that she shouldn't be 100% trusting toward her newfound family. George and Nick are outside, and George asks to talk. She says that she knows she's been distant and wants to apologize for making him feel badly. He starts to tell her no apology is necessary, but she tells him she doesn't want to make him feel like a secret. She says she's in good relationships, but is working and wants to be with him for real this time. Next, in that case, he'll make a restaurant reservation, and George smiles as they kiss. Bess is back at the mansion with Aunt Diana, praises Bess for handling the Owen situation, and dangles the possibility of being a full-fledged member of the family. Bess sees the portraits in the hall and asks her aunt who is in them. Diana says there's so many stories to tell that she'll save them for later. As she walks away, Bess looks closer up on the paintings. She's shocked to see that the artist has painted a being that looks an awful like the Iglesia into one of them. In the final moments of the episode, each member of the Druker receives a vision of their own death. Nick and George drown in Nick's car, Ace is hung from a chain in the restaurant, Bess burns alive in the mansion, and Nancy falls off the bluffs, echoing Lucy's death. All are scared, the message is clear. The Iglesia is coming, and she means business. Dun dun dun. Oh, wow. So anyway, let's take a look at a little bit of trivia about this episode. In the events following the COVID-19 global pandemic, this episode also serves as the season finale, 4 episodes earlier than intended. So overall, as the finale to season 1, this episode is pretty damn good, and so, yeah. But of course, we're going to have to wait till next year to look at season 2, so yeah. So overall, I give The Clue in the Captain's Painting 5 Deer Stalkers out of 5. When we tune in next year, so we begin our look at season 2 with The Search for the Midnight Wraith. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at season 1 of the CW Nancy Drew series. And next month is Young Adult April, so next month we're going to be looking at the Maze Runner series. So tune in for that. Anyway, so until next year, remember everyone, the game's afoot.